thought you were ready, brother.
Original faith-based, community-driven streaming media. Broadcasting live from Studio B, right here from the Voice17104.com.
Live from the Voice17104.com Studio B, it's the Ron Chapel Show featuring news, conversation, and entertainment. Now, here's the host of the show, Mr. Ron Chapel!
Okay. Thank you, Pastor Thomas. Good evening, everybody. Hi, I'm Ron Chapel, and welcome to the show. Tonight, as we close out Black History Month. Okay, we've had some, I hope you have found informative programs over the past 3 weeks, and I hope that you took time to also educate yourself on some of the Black people that paved the road for all the liberties that we now enjoy. They paid their dues, and now as our generation, and now it's up to us to further the cause, to do the things that are right and proper, and to help sustain what they left us to build upon. Sitting here with engineer Pastor Chris Thomas, and also a very special guest host tonight. You know, we've had a Black History Month panel all month with Mr. Anthony Harrell and also Miss Crystal Davis. Crystal will not be joining us tonight, but she is here rather in spirit. Pastor Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Crystal Davis is a candidate for Harrisburg City Council. She will be appearing on the May primary ballot here in Harrisburg, and we have an ad that we're going to play right now announcing Miss Crystal Davis.
Family and friends, my name is Crystal Davis. I am a veteran and a business owner right here in the capital city of Harrisburg. I am currently running for city council in the May 2016-2023 election. I hope to see you at the polls.
Okay, there's May 16th, 2023, Miss Crystal Davis. Now I have a gift to all candidates campaigns that hope to be on the primary ballot in May. If you inbox me, we will extend to you a 5-minute presentation segment where you can come in and announce your candidacy and rally people to vote for you. And if you want to have a commercial produced, like the one you just heard, well, then we have a program for that also. Tonight, we have a very special guest host, as I mentioned, and so now I'm going to introduce him. He's a part of the panel that we had all month where we discussed the gains that our ancestors made for us, and now he's hosting the program tonight. He is a two-service military honorably discharged veteran. He's an Iraqi war veteran. He's a pre-law student, and he's also a candidate for Harrisburg City Council. So I present to you tonight's special guest host, the Honorable Anthony Harrell. Welcome back, Anthony.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Once again, Mr. Ron Chapel, thank you for having me on your show. Have a guest host once again, sit alongside you again and get that more information out to our people, to get more hands-on so we can understand things that we don't understand, to get a little better understanding of. Now, as you said, tonight I will be hosting the show, which is an honor and a pleasure. So without further ado, let us begin. Good evening, my fellow Americans. Tonight, we will have an in-house chat about our situation in this country, our country. We have been in every single war this country has ever been in, from 1775 Revolutionary War, 1861 Civil War, 1914 World War I, 1940 World War II, 1950 Korean War, 1955 Vietnam, 1991 Persian Gulf Desert Storm, 2001 Afghanistan, and 2003 Iraq War. I say here and today, anyone who says that we as a people are lazy, murderers, thugs, liars, or just ignorant of our contribution to this nation. We have an excellent black airmen who fought violently against those who would oppose us. When I say us, I mean Americans. We are as American as apple pie. There is not one sporting event that we have not participated in and made it worthy. From the track and field of the Olympics to the boxing ring where a black man fought a Nazi, Joe Louis versus Max Smelling, that gave us pride to all Americans in this country. What does all this mean? 1 month to give to Black history is no service to those who share my history. It should be in the textbooks as American history, all of it, the good and the bad. And then maybe we as a nation can heal and become the shining beacon of hope and optimism we hear and see every day. Having said that, I'd like to see if Mr. Ron Chapel got anything to say about, you got any inventors, anybody new you would like to introduce to us, or these Black history you'd like to make yourself?
Well, I like to say that we're all part of contemporary Black history. You know, our people have come a long, long way. You know, I think I know that I have a few miles on you, Mr. Harrell, and so I could harken back to times, thank God, that are not here anymore. You know, there were times so many decades ago, people look around now and they see plenty Black officials, elected officials, and Blacks in responsible positions as police officers, as firemen, etc., city council members. But I remember the time when there weren't any, where if there were 1 or 2 Black cops on the force, well, then they would whoop your head just as bad as some redneck cop that happened to be on that force. You know, I remember neighborhoods that Black folks couldn't live in or couldn't be there after dark unless they were on their way to work or coming from work. I remember the times when police would stop groups of Black teenage kids coming from school and illegally search them and slam them up against buildings and police cars.
Well, again, everything
and sometimes even plant weapons on them. And so thank God we don't have those days anymore. And the reason we don't is not just through osmosis, it's because a lot of people like us put their lives on the line and went out in the street and protested and boycotted and created such a storm that the powers that be had to loosen the reins, if you will. Well, as far as introducing some Black inventors tonight, I'm taking a little different route. I have a couple of videos. I'm going to ask Chris to show one of them that sort of tells some of our history. And so, Pastor Thomas, if you play one of the videos, please.
anyone?
Yes, anyone would do. Any day now, I will hear you say. That was by Chuck Jackson.
Thomas Fuller will go down as one of the most underappreciated mathematicians of our time.
Started from the beginning.
Mr. Fuller was born in 1710, somewhere near Benin and Liberia of West Africa.
Give me a quick second. These clips are hard to manage because you can't see the start and the play. That's not my fault, brother.
Okay.
It's hard to see the start.
I was born by a river in a little tent.
So I have a few things I wanted to talk about until we get things running.
Yeah, go right ahead, brother.
Absolutely.
You're hosting. Let me step aside.
I want to talk to you about our people, about what's important to us now. It seems, I noticed that here in this city, not just this city, but I've noticed that The lives of our children is not what they should be. What I mean by is I've seen where our children, when they're expired, if you will, or deleted, as you would say, deleted, a family can do a GoFundMe, and inside of 3 or 4 days can raise about $20,000. And I remember somebody had wrote a song a long while ago that says, "You're nobody till somebody kills you." And it's starting to sink in, even though it happened to him, famous rapper that did it happen to him. I understand that's not supposed to be the way, but it seems to be that way. And I want to make that change. I want us to start, if you want to do a GoFundMe, if you really care about the black children in this city, this country, whatever it may be, do a GoFundMe while they're alive. Save them while they're here. There's no good to raise $20,000 or $30,000 for a child when he's dead, just to bury him. That $30,000 can go to that child to do something great with that child. You can get all the mentorship, maybe get him a scholarship to a college, or even a trade school, somewhere where he can make something out of himself. Also, I know that children do better when they believe that others around them care about them. They do better when they feel as though people are looking out their best interests. People want them to be something. We need to get more of our children into be in the STEM program. We need more of our children to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, not just basketball players and rappers. That's not going to really help our society grow. We need to get more of those of the professions, the trades. I was told before that once you learn to use your hands, that can never take away from you. You can always make money. You can always use your hands to be an electrician, to be a plumber. And to some of you out there to let you know that plumbers make a lot of money. You know, everybody think you got to be a doctor, lawyer. You don't. You can be a plumber and an electrician or a carpenter, and you can make almost just as much money as they do. Because believe you me, no matter if a doctor has a house, a $300,000 house, and it's toilet breaks, he's going to call you to come fix it. And he's going to pay you whatever you say it is. For instance, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and his shower head broke off and it's shooting water everywhere. You will be in demand. So I was saying that we need to care more for our children here, even in the city of Harrisburg. We need to start something, a GoFundMe, whatever you want to call it, startup pack, whatever you used to call it, so we can put money somewhere away for our children. So that when they have needs, we can take care of their needs. So they don't have to do things like, I ain't gonna say they all do it, but do things like sell drugs and rob places and rob the elderly and do things like that and things that keep them in trouble. If they knew there was a place they can go to take care of some of their needs, half these children wouldn't be the way they are. I understand some families don't have for them. I understand that. We are in certain situations, but if we won't keep saying it takes a community to raise a child, then we need to start acting like we are a community then. It ain't just the one of the parents and the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles. It's also the neighbors, the cousins, and everybody else that's inside that neighborhood to help that child to see it get to a better life. Because believe you me, we all progress better. We all have a better city. If we had all these children turn into doctors, lawyers, and engineers, and carpenters, they can come back and build this whole city up. Then hire your own people to come in and take care of it. So I think we need to do that more for our children, to show them that we really care about them, not just words. Because we get out here, we talk words about, put the guns down. That's not enough just to tell a child to put the guns down. Give me a reason. And you probably say, give me a reason to put that gun down. Not just put it down because you say so. Give me a reason. So I don't have to go out and go do this. Don't have to go out and do that. Show me a better way. I think that's what a lot of problems our children have. They don't know a better way, except what they're being shown. All they've been shown on television and music, and through certain music, is you got to be a bad guy. You got to throw the gun. You got to go do this and go do that to take what you want instead of earning. Believe you me, I'm talking to you children out there, you young people. You'll feel a lot better when you earn it. Because when you earn it, they can't take it from you. See, when you go out and steal it and you do all those kind of things, they can be taken from you. But you go out and earn yours. Earn your keep. Earn your way in this world. And you'll be a better person for it, and you'll appreciate more of what you do. With that being said again?
Yes, brother. You know that term that said a lot about it takes a village. You know, I think that our community has sort of regressed in a way that when I was much younger, we did have a concerned village. You know, there were grown folks on the block that looked out for the children and chastised them with love. You know, with certain things like, boy, get your butt out the street. Y'all quit playing in the street. Put that down. That's not yours. So on and so forth. We had adults that if they saw us on school days, during school hours and we're out hanging out, if you will, they would stop us as if we were their own children and ask us, why aren't we in school? You know, we had that kind of concern. You know, we had grown men, older men that would, every time a ice cream truck rolled down the street, they would stop the truck and they would buy all the kids an ice cream. You know, where grown-ups stayed in their place. You know, they didn't curse around us. And sometimes they would go on the stoop and sit around and drink. But if we came anywhere near, they would chase us away. You know, a lot of those things are lost in our community nowadays. You know, we have so many grown people who want to try to relive their childhood again, you know, and they're not setting positive examples before the children. And so it's no wonder why the children don't tend to respect these older individuals. And so that loving village that everybody like to tout and talk about, we had it, and I think things start falling apart, or start completely being flipped when crack cocaine hit our communities. I think that was the beginning of all the turmoil, you know, that even go on to this day, you know, because so many fathers got locked up because of that crack epidemic, not just because of the crimes they may have committed, but you know, I mean, not just because they were hooked on that drug, but also from selling that drug. And so the black men were removed from these households, and it's something like I talked about last week, you know. And so you have these children raised without a responsible male figure in the home. And so these kids grow up with a lot of resentment, and they don't want to listen to anything a grown black man has to say, because after all, they see you as, you know, the person that deserted them, because after all, they were seemingly in their mind deserted by a black man, you know. And you know, it's a hurtful feeling, you know. You know, I can harken back, you know, being a little boy when you know, my mom and my stepfather would go through their difficulties. And I remember riding to a father and son's night with my best friend and his father, you know, and I'm sitting in the back seat of the car feeling like a third wheel. You know, the hurtful feeling. And I'm telling you guys out there that like to brag about children you're not taking care of, those children are hurting. Those children are hurting. And you have nothing to be proud about whatsoever, you know. And those kids going to grow up with a lot of resentment, and a lack of respect for other men that might want to try to show them the right way. And so, you know, a lot of you guys, I know when you go out there, you get in trouble, you get locked up. One of the first things you start worrying about and crying about is that you miss your kids. You miss your kids. You wonder about your kids' safety. You wonder about their development. But face it, when you were out here in the street, you didn't have time for them. You didn't take time for them. And all of a sudden, you wish you could come out and take care of your kids. Well, if you are blessed to be out here now, well, then do something for your child. You know, and especially if it's a young male child, you know, try to lead them the right way, so they won't go through the mistakes and the problems and the hard times that you went through, because you don't want to listen to anybody. And so, like I say, you know, we had that proverbial village at one time, and I believe that we can have it again. And I tell you, man, it really touches my heart every time I see a young man walking around with his child or with his children. You know, I always gotta, you know, give him a nod or greeting and sort of even congratulate him, you know, and tell them, you know, that's what we need more of. That's what we need more of. We need more men out there to take time to be with your children and to try to lead your children the right way. Okay, let me appeal to the engineer, Mr. Chris Thomas. Okay, are we ready now, sir, with one of the videos?
Thomas Fuller will go down as one of the most underappreciated mathematicians of our time. Mr. Fuller was born in 1710, somewhere near Benin and Liberia of West Africa. And at the tender age of 14, he was stolen from his homeland and shipped to America, where it would become the legal property of Preston and Elizabeth Cox of Alexandria, Virginia. Known as the Virginia Calculator, Fuller had this uncanny ability to perform complex mental math calculations, in spite of the fact that he couldn't read. And this discovery was so fascinating that anti-slavery campaigners had to go see Fuller to witness it for themselves. And Fuller, who was 70 years old at the time, was still performing these complex mental math calculations while these campaigners were struggling to get them done with pen and paper. And they were so fascinated that one of them actually said it was a pity that Mr. Fuller never got a formal education. But Mr. Fuller replied, "It is best that I had no learning, for learned men be great fools."
Okay, so we didn't get the first name of Mr. Fuller, but if the video was followed,
Thomas Fuller.
I beg your pardon?
Thomas Fuller.
Thomas Fuller. And do you have the years of his life?
I just closed the
Is it
window.
listed?
My apologies.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna refer back to the host of the program, Mr. Harrell.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, tonight, I want to make history. There are 4 things any community needs to thrive. 1, hospitals. 2, schools. 3, businesses. And 4, and lastly, banks. I have in my pocket about $20, and I will start here and now. Start a GoFundMe, if you will, or anything else, or startup. It will be what I think the city needs more than anything else. I may not be able to contribute to all the 4, but I will start one here today. And one that I'd like to start for is a school for the city. If the current system, I believe that the current system will not teach us or our children about our contributions, we shall have the duty to do it for ourselves. We're not victims, and I ask you to stand up with me and make sure we mark or stamp our community with what's being said. Let me see. Oh, sorry. With that being said, I was going to continue to let the esteemed guests talk, but we just me and Mr. Ron Chapel here, so she isn't here, and that's okay. So, anything that refers to Black history, as they see it today, is what progress we can make towards tomorrow. In other words, we make history every day. Black history should be more than just 1 month. It should be every day. And every person here should want to make history for ourselves and for our community as a whole. That way, we feel as though every day you wake up, you're making history, you'll want to contribute more, you'll be a better person, better individual. When he talked about, Mr. Ron Chapel talked earlier about men and their children. I'll give my own example today. Well, I don't have a son. And for, I don't know, he's 13, 14, 15, he was in a lot of trouble. He was a handful, more than a handful, I'll admit. And he did everything that all the teenagers do, teenage boys do. You know, to run away, all the things they shouldn't be doing. And every day I chased them down. I don't mean chased them, but I corrected them, this and that, called the police, everything we're supposed to do, get them corrected, and he still fought, he pushed back, But I maintained the whole time. I maintained that I was not his friend, I was his parent. I was there to make his life better for him. I'm trying to make him understand the rules, regulations, and how life will treat you if you decide to break all the rules. Now you would think that he wasn't listening because he kept doing it. Well, now he's about 19 years old. He's on his own now. And he gave me a call this afternoon, and he said, "You know something? Now, out of the blue, he said this. You know something? All those times when I was doing those things out there and being ignorant, not listening, not paying attention, being disrespectful. He said today, I apologize. He said, I apologize to you from my heart because you was right. You was right. You was absolutely right about what you was doing. And because you did that, I think I'm a better person than I was at that time. I see the error now. I understand what it takes now to do what is needed to be done, how to listen, how to take other people's ideals and thoughts in and not think of only yourself and not be selfish. And that meant a lot to me. I said to him, I said, same thing I told you, I tell your sisters as well. That I'm not your friend. I constantly said it because I learned that from mine. So I'm not your friend. I'm here to make sure that you make it out here in this world, that you understand what is expected of you and what you are expected out of yourself. So a lot of these parents out here, they try to be their child's friends. I understand. You want to be their friends, give them things and do things for them and let them slide on some things. But I'm here to tell you that I heard this say before, that a child, when he gets older, he or she will come back and thank you for correcting them when they was a child for the person they become. Because if you don't, when they get older to that age where they're supposed to be, they'll come back and say, why didn't you correct me? They're going to blame you for the adult they become. They'll become an irresponsible adult because you didn't correct them and change them and make them see the light of the errors of their ways. So you got two choices. Correct them when as a child and you can deal with it, and it'll come back as an adult and say that what you did was what you had to do, or have an adult come back to you and tell you, you shouldn't let me do that. Now look at me, I'm a mess because you didn't correct me. You let me run around, you let me do what I wanted to do. No rules, no nothing. And now I'm up to here and all kind of whatever. So I'm here to tell you, all children, if your parents, you think they've been mean to you, whatever it may be, clean your room, sweep up, do some chores. Don't let you go with your friends. Don't let you stay up late. Don't let you be out in the streets running around. They monitoring you, think they all hovering over you. It's not for that reason, not to make your life miserable. And so we can make you understand that this is how it's supposed to be done. We're trying to give you a path forward. Because your path as a child, you don't know. You think that it's all fun and games, but you get out here in the real world and you get your first little apartment, you don't pay your rent, you get a note that says you've been evicted, and you call mom and dad saying, I didn't pay my rent last 2 days and I got an eviction notice. Can I come back home? That's the last thing your parents want to hear is you come back home. What they want to hear is they renew my rent, they renew my lease for the next year or so, because I've been paying on time, because you taught me to do that. I got up on time and went to work. I was never late. I didn't make no excuses, rain, sleet, or snow. I was always there. You taught me that you have to make sacrifices to get what you want. I understand now. So that's what you have to do. So all those parents out there, I know you tried. I know some of your single parents out there, you do the best you can, but you do. Because I was raised by a single parent. And that's why I learned to pass it on to my little ones. And now with the big ones. That you have to be responsible and accountable for yourself. And you have to listen to other people a little older than you. I know you might think they don't know what they're talking about, but they've been there. I'm here to tell you, to you young people out there, the older people have been there, done that, and they don't want you to do any of that. They want you to go take a different path than theirs. Maybe not putting it in right words for you when they say don't do that, don't explain why, but it's a reason why. It's a method to the madness. Some people can't explain it, but that's what it really is. We don't want you to be us. We want you to be better than. We don't want you to make the same mistakes we did. So that's why when you see your parents coming down on you, they want better for you. They always did. It might not seem like it at the time, but when you get older, when you have your first child, and you're sitting there and your child will do something that you used to do, and you corrected them just like your parents did you, you're going to make that phone call. Or you're going to make that phone call and say, Mom, Dad, you was right. I understand now what you was doing. And no matter how late it is, they will be happy to hear it. Because I was happy to my soul to hear that. That I thought, because you think, as I thought for a long time, that nothing I said got through. That it didn't matter. But they hear you. They do. I testify that today. They hear you. He even told his mother. He told her first. You're right. You and Dad was right. Simple as that. So,
Yeah, you know, you're telling the story of the prodigal son.
oh,
You know, he rebelled and he went away, and then once he came to his senses, he came back. You know, he came back, and I'm sure you still receive him with open arms.
absolutely. 100%.
Yes, and so if you have lived in a wayward way and you made mistakes, but know that your father above wants to accept you back. He never really forgot about you, never turned his back on you. You know, most of the things, most of the tribulations and trials that we go through, we bring those on ourselves. We bring them on ourselves, you know, and so, you know, you got to be very, very mindful of what you put out into the universe. You know, I've seen it happen many, many times. You know, if a person puts anger out there into the universe, well, many times before the sunset, that's what they're going to receive back in kind. And so, you know, I've seen people hurt people and thought they was getting away with something, but it was just a matter of time before that karma check was arriving at their door. You know, what you put out there in the universe will come back. And so be mindful of the things you say and the things you do and the way you treat people. I think it's written because, you know, be careful of the stranger that you entertain, because you may be entertaining an angel. You know, and so it was all about, you know, what Anthony was talking about was teaching your children responsibility, not letting them have their way all the time, you know. And see, I got to tell you, I think I mentioned this once before, you know, being raised by my mom and a stepfather when he was around. And I was a rebellious child growing up, you know, staying out as late as I wanted to, you know, in my teenage years and so on and so forth. And but I knew that there would be a time that I would have to do some things that I really did not want to do. And so what I did with that, Anthony, I listened to the service. You know, I listened to the Marine Corps because I knew there would come a time in my life when, you know, I would not have my way. And I realized that I needed some discipline. You know, children know that too.
Mhm.
Children know they need discipline. Some children know that sometimes they need somebody to say, look, shut up and sit down. No, you can't have that. No, you cannot have that. Just sit down and be quiet. Sit down and listen to me. Children need that. Children need that. And what Anthony Harrell was saying about not being a friend, but being a parent, you know, that's what you have to do, because a friend's word only goes so far. A friend can't tell another friend you should be in school.
Mhm.
A friend, they can say it, but it don't mean nothing. If a friend tells another friend you should be doing your homework, it don't mean anything, okay? But when a parent says that to a child, well, then it takes it on a completely different tone and a completely different meaning. And so, you know, unfortunately, what has happened also in our community is that there's too many adults that want to even hang out with their children, you know, sitting around the house smoking weed with their children, you know, and so on and so forth, and then wonder why the child don't respect them. You wonder why the 14-year-old girl, 15-year-old girl is coming into the house pregnant, you know, and a lot of that is because of what the child experienced in that household. The child wasn't taught any kind of responsibility or anything like that. And so the child might have encountered a lot of wayward living in the house. And so the child went out and felt that whatever they wanted to do, that's what they did. And so the end result is that now your daughter, you know what, years ago, Anthony, when a teenage girl or a high school girl end up pregnant, you know what her parents would do? A family would send them down south.
Yep.
The parents would send them down south because, in a way, the parents felt like it was an embarrassment to them. It was an embarrassment to them to have a 16-year-old girl in their house pregnant, that wasn't married. 16-year-olds can be married in certain states if the parents sign the proper papers. But nowadays, this baby mama, baby daddy jargon is just like the norm, where there seem to be no respect with grandmothers that'll show you 5 grandchildren that their daughter blessed them with, 5 grandchildren, and sometimes from 4 or 5 different guys. They'll probably show you the grandchildren, they'll probably show you their daughter. But what a lot of them cannot do is show you a wedding band on the daughter's finger,
Yeah.
And that's not the children's fault at all, That's not just reflection on the daughter, that's reflection on the mother. And I know that parents cannot take all the blame because once the children leave the house, well, there's many, many different wayward influences out there in the street, But I believe that if a strong enough foundation is set, well, then it'll be pretty difficult for that child to be swayed down the wrong road. And so, like I say, it's all about taking responsibility. And it's all about setting good examples, because someone is always watching, Children watch, and they listen, and they emulate what they have been around. They emulate what they have been exposed to. And so you got to be mindful of that. When you're playing all this, you're a young adult and you're playing all this wicked gangster rap music with all the profanity and all the glorifying of violence. You play that around your 3, 4, and 5-year-old children, and that spirit gets into them, and they grow up being wayward children, because I think that's also child abuse, Anthony.
Absolutely, yes.
Child abuse is not just physical. It can also be mental and emotional, And it just, it bothers me when I see a young person, with their friend and a child with them, and they're playing all this MF this and B that and so on and so forth, and you got a little child tag along with them. I think, like I said, I think that's child abuse. And so, again, like I say, it's all about being a responsible parent, taking responsibility to teach the right way. Yeah, you were about to say something, Mr.
Yeah, I would
Brown.
say a lot of these, we talk about Black history, a lot of these cliches that we've been saying around the table tonight is part of that Black history. Like when we say that it takes a village to raise a child, that was the reason it was said, and we practiced that. That cliche that kept us going. Because it was a time, like you said, it was a time where I could knock on my neighbor's door and say, can I borrow a little bit of sugar? And you can get that.
You know what? Not to cut you off, but I can go back even further than that. There was a time, okay, now see, our families way back then, and I'm talking about like in the early 60s, so on and so forth, way back, I told you I got some miles on you, but way back then, we didn't have air conditioners in the house. A lot of Black households did not have air conditioners. And very rarely, if they even had a fan. And so, because a fan was a luxury, and we were only dealing with the necessities, and that was keeping food and keeping the lights on. Now, there was times when families used to go for walks. I mean, families, the mother, the father, the stepfather, the 2 or 3 children, they would go for walks on hot summer nights. And they might walk maybe the radius of 5, 10, or 12 blocks away. And then they, to sort of cool off, because the house was hot and muggy, they would go for these long walks and then come back, and sit on the porch, for instance, drink some ice water, and then go in the house and go to bed. Now, during the interim, while they were out on the walks, if a friend of theirs were to come by to visit them, the friend would knock on the door, knock on the screen door, and if there was no answer, the friend would walk up the porch and walk away. And then tell you the next day, I came by your house last night at 8 o'clock, I knocked, there was no answer, so I left. That was the kind of respect and love, togetherness that we had in the community back then. Matter of fact, you could leave your front door open and just a screen door closed. And like I say, if you did not answer the door when they knocked, they would turn and walk away. But God forbid if you were to try that today. You get back home, the first thing you notice, you walk in the house, you don't hear the TV. Matter of fact, you don't see the TV. And there's quite a few other things that you may not see, And you might even go to the icebox, go to the refrigerator, and look in the freezer, and you don't see them steaks or chicken or whatever else you put in there either, Times have really, really changed. Times have gotten to that, and like I say, a lot of it have to do with the drugs that were shipped to our communities, and the guns that were dropped off in our communities. And I say dropped off, yes, true. Talk to anybody from Chicago. Anybody that's familiar with the streets in Chicago anyway. I know some of you got relatives in Chicago that are church people. Well, they may not be too in tune with what's happening out there in the streets, But you talk to someone that live in any projects in Chicago, and they'll tell you about sometimes walking past alleys at night and seeing crates of guns just dropped off an alley, open, a whole case of guns open in the alley. And of course, young people, anybody, a lot of people go out there and pick them up. And then eventually take them home and eventually use them. And you know who they're using them on? They're using them on people that are just like them. And so, like I say, a lot of the stuff that's happening in our communities is happening by plan and by design. And, with Chicago, just like I think in a lot of other major cities, there may be conspiracies in those cities also, which I believe there is in Chicago, for organ harvesting. That's, Anthony, organ harvesting. Now, we could do a whole program on organ harvesting, And so, like I say, people have been coming into the community to raise havoc and to try to divide us, I also sent Chris a video about the North Atlantic slave trade. Okay, I think that video might be a little longer. It might be 30 minutes long or so we can't get into that tonight. Well, you're the host, and you didn't know about it, so I'm not going to even attempt to ask him to play it. But it told the story of the North Atlantic slave trade and all the countries that were involved, and it also told, which is a misnomer to a lot of Black people, that all white folks owned slaves, that all white folks were involved with the slave trade, which isn't true at all. All white folks did not own slaves the same way every Black family on your block don't drive a brand new Mercedes Benz. Now there was quite a few that did, but they were in the higher economic bracket. But what I'm getting at is that some of those slave traders were also black Africans. You know, some of those slave traders were black Africans who were in the jungle kidnapping people themselves. Some kings had people out there stealing people from other tribes. And they were trading those to the slave traders, you know, for armaments and things like that, you know. And so, you know, I bring it up to say, when I talk about the confusion in the inner city, I see the drug dealers in our community are being akin to some of those Africans that sold other Africans into the bondage of slavery, you know, because the drug dealers, what they've done it, and I know a lot of y'all glorify them. They've been glorified in song and also in movie, you know, like Superfly, you know, like the Mac, so on and so forth. And these are people that were bringing destruction to their own race, you know, selling their own race into slavery, into the slavery of drugs, which a lot of families end up suffering. A lot of families are suffering now. A lot of children are growing up now without a parent in the household, you know, due to drugs, you know. And so, like I say, you know, what if these drug dealers really have the spirit of those black Africans that were selling other Africans into slavery? You know, because, you know, to me, it's the same situation. It's the same situation, you know. And I can say that's a line of work that I was never, ever involved in. You know, that's a principle of mine that held firm, you know. But yes, that's a principle of mine that held firm, you know. But everybody, whatever they choose to do, they deal with the consequences of those actions. Brother, you're hosting the show. I don't want to.
That's all right. No, it's all right. Like I said, we talked about our time, your time, our time, how parents treated the children, how we, as society at that time, how we treated our children, how we saw our children. You spoke of a time where you said parents and whole families would go out for walks at night because that's what they would do as a, you know, as a unit. And I talked about how when I came through, you could go to knock on a neighbor's door and ask them for a cup of sugar, and you could get a cup of sugar, actually. As a matter of fact, when we used to have what we call I guess you call a neighborhood or a block, we have houses on both sides. It would be at a time where those people, the same people when you grew up, lived there, they died there. It wasn't a whole bunch like here in Harrisburg where everybody's renting and you got people running in and out. One year you got this family, one year that family. You could grow up as a child and become an adult and go back there, and the same people that you grew up with, their families would still be there. So it was like a unit there. So when they would have like a block party or something, it would be families would come outside and barbecue, everybody on the block, and you could go around to every house where everybody was barbecuing. Everybody would give you something. You get hot dogs over there, you get sodas over there. Everybody would share. Like it was a different community, a different time, which we like now, which we need now. And another thing, another Black History moment I would like to say that we had was something called when we had Thanksgiving. I think a lot of us can relate to this one. Maybe not the next generation, but this mine's and the ones before, where they would have the adult table where adults sat and they ate for Thanksgiving, and you had the children's table. Because they had a saying back then was children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah, you know, can I just jump in there for a minute?
Yes, sir.
And that was a time, okay, you know, you're talking about separating the children from the adults. There was a time, I remember as a child, if there were adults sitting at the table discussing adult things, and you come walking around, you know, leaning in to try to hear, they would tell you to go in the room. Y'all going, you kids go in the room. This grown folks' business, yes. You know. And I tell you, that was a line that was drawn. And I'm gonna tell you something that we did not do back then as children. We did not talk back to adults. We did not call adults by their first name. Yes. No, by the given name, you know. You know, what does it look like for a 7-year-old child to call you Anthony? And here you're old enough to be his grandfather. And see, people think that's cute when a child, you know, call them by their given name, by their first name. But let me tell you what's happening. When an 80-year-old child call you a grown person by your first name, in their mind, what they just did was made you into another 8-year-old, you know? And when you introduce your children to grown folks, please always put a handle on it. You know, don't say this is Anthony. This is Mr. Harrell, you know. And something else we used to practice back then. Children don't question adults. Children don't question adults. And children don't butt into adults' conversation, you know. You know, if I'm talking to Anthony and we're talking on the same level because we're grown men and we're talking about, for instance, maybe a department store on the other side of town, was out of place for his or my 9-year-old to turn to one of us and say, what time do they open? You know, no. Children should stay in a children's place, in a child's place, you know. So you should not let kids butt into your conversation. You shouldn't let kids butt into your conversation. And if you discuss a grown folks matter, you should have the children removed from that particular setting, you know. And I think that helps instill in them respect, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, there's got to be a line drawn. There's got to be a line drawn. And as I say, you should not have your child asking another grown person a question. If they're going to ask them a question, you know what, sir, Mr. So-and-so, may I ask you a question? Because nowadays, the child will question you, and their parent will wait for you to answer the child. You know what? Let me tell you what happened one time, man. I was going to the grocery store, Giant's grocery store, one day, and I was in a hurry because I think I might have been on a lunch break or something like that. So I know what I got to get. I'm running in to get 2 items, then I'm back to the car and I'm gone, right? There was a young mother that had like an 8-year-old, you know, with her, the 8-year-old girl, and they pulled a cart out, you know, and so I'm waiting for them to go into the store, you know. And, you know, the kid is playing, I don't think the kid was 8 years old, you know, but the kid is playing with the cart, you know, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, in, out, to the left, to the right. You know what I mean? And I found I said, excuse me, can I get by? The lady turned to me, the lady said, don't rush my child. Don't rush my child. I said, I'm just trying to go into the store. And then she called herself. She said, God bless you, you know, and so on and so forth, right? But telling me not to rush her child when she should have said, baby, let that man get through. You know what I mean? That's the stuff I'm talking about. That's the stuff I'm talking about. You know, why is it these young parents get so upset when you try to correct one of their children out of all the love in the world? You know, they don't want you to say nothing to them. Nothing. But lo and behold, let them get to be a teenager and get locked up. Then they want you to help bail them out, you know? And so, you know, there's something else that changed, you know, in our communities. You know what I mean? I mean, back when I was growing up, you caught me doing wrong, you know, you could take me and shake me up just like, you know, almost like my parent would, you know? And my only fear is that you told my father, that you caught me doing wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you told him, then I really got it coming, you know, because it would be almost like I embarrassed him for acting that way. But lo and behold, nowadays, man, you know, people want to fight you if you say anything to their child, anything instructive, you know? And so that's something that's got to change in our community. And if it takes a village, If another grown villager want to try to instruct your child out of love, you should let it be. You should let it be, you know. Either, you know, they're taking attitude like Richard Pryor said, okay, well, go ahead, play in the street. Get ran over by a truck. I don't care. You know what I mean? And so don't get so upset and bent out of shape if someone whispers to your child, don't run around in church, or you shouldn't be eating in church, or sit down while the preacher is talking, you know, y'all quit playing or whatever, you know what I mean? Don't get so upset, because the person is only doing that out of love, and they're trying to teach them the right way. All right, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think another thing that might be an issue with our people is I would say somebody finally they took religion away from us. They took religion away from us. They took it out of our soul and made us forget certain things. Like when I was a kid growing up, we went to Sunday school and stuff like that. Even if I didn't like it or whatever, we went to Sunday school, and they taught us about those two places, you know, where God's love and the other place. And one thing you always feared as a child was that other place. And that sort of, whether it was to keep you in line, whether it's so you can get a understanding of the world, it worked on us as children. We had a fear of at least something else outside of ourselves, that we did something outside of our parents' eyes and vision, that somebody else was watching you. And if you did wrong, this was a place reserved for you if you did certain things. And I think now what happened is these children now have no fear of up top or below, whatever religion you have, they have no fear of anything. They think that outside of themselves, that this is it. And there's no everlasting punishment or everlasting love from anything else. And I think that we need to get that back into our children. We need to let them know that somebody else besides your parents loved you outside of you, no matter what you do, and want nothing but the best for you. And if you believe that, you're going to believe that, then they would say, okay, I know I'm out here in the streets doing this here. I shouldn't be doing it. My mom might be looking, but there is still somebody else looking after me, and I need to do better by that.
Okay, sir, can I respectfully disagree with you?
Absolutely.
On that, you know, because there's been a question and argument in our, now not just in our community, but other communities too, for years, you know, over the past 20 years or so, and that's religion in school. You know, I'm a Christian, but I am against religion being taught in public school.
Yeah, public school.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Because there are people other than Christians who pay taxes that help support that school. Okay, there are Muslim children, there are Jews, there are Jewish children, there are atheist children, there are agnostic children. And so I don't think that a public school is the proper place for someone to be taught religion. I think there's something that should be done at home, or something that should be done at the holy house that their child's parent wants to take them. Because when it gets to religion being taught in school, and you know, you can take 10 different pastors and they can interpret the Bible, they can interpret the scripture 10 different ways. You know what I'm saying? And so who is the one that's teaching your child about God and about they can only speak from their perspective of God, you know? You know, would you want an Amish person teaching your Christian child about God, you know? Or one of these other groups, you know, the denominations that think, for instance, the curse put on Cain was the black skin.
Yeah, the Mormons.
You know, Mormons. Okay, yeah. Mormons. Now, would you want a Mormon person trying to teach your child about God? You see, that's when I draw the line, you know, because I don't think that should be taught in public school. And then they came up with that catchphrase, they've kicked God out of school. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, of course.
They kicked God out of school. Now, first of all, I think there's no more arrogant statement, excuse me, that a person can utter, excuse me, talking about they kicked God out of school, because that is suggesting that there's something in that school that God can learn. You know, that's suggesting that God would be a student of the teacher. You know, when God created the school, the teacher, and everything in it, everything about it. You know, now you can kick Billy out of school, you can kick Mary out of school, but for you to say you kick God out of school, you know, I mean, it's just a very, very arrogant statement, you know.
Yeah.
But I know I know the context that they say in there. But like I say, you know, that's where personally I just have to draw the line. I don't think that public school is any place for someone to learn from the teacher's religion, because then again, the teacher may be wrong. You know, the teacher may be wrong. I just think that is out of place. Like I say, there are all kind of people that pay taxes. You know, there's Christians, there's Jews, there's Muslims, there's Rastafarians, so on and so forth. And so, whose religion is going to be taught, and by who?
Yeah, but that's why I personally, when you say private school, that's why I said my daughter's going to go to Bishop McDevitt.
Well, see, that's different, because that is
it's like a Catholic school.
Right.
It's for them.
A specific curriculum.
And you know, I wouldn't want it in the public school, of course, because you know, the public square is something different. But the reason why, you know, besides the education they got, I believe that if you as a parent can't bring it to them, maybe somebody else can bring it to them in a certain way.
Right.
That's why I say Adventist says, well, it says God is going. It says, well, maybe if I can't bring it, because maybe I wasn't brought up in it right. Maybe that person over there can bring them to him. Right. It doesn't matter. I always thought it doesn't matter how you get to him, just as long as you do.
Okay.
And then maybe my child comes home to me and says, I want to be a nun, I want to be this, and tell me about what's mass and this and that. She asks me all these questions and stuff and get me more involved in the situation and things. But you know,
it's different.
It's different.
Yeah, the time.
Call it okay. And close, I'd like to say to Mr. Ron Chappell, thank you very much for allowing me to host your show. And I was going to say to my esteemed guest, if she was here, thank you for the subjects we talked about, this Black History Month, which is coming to a close, as you said. If you take away anything from tonight, we take away this. We are the authors of our future, past, and present. So take the wheel, never let go, and pick up a book and read. Read to your children and read to yourself, so that you can know also about a little bit of Black history about from where we stand at.
Absolutely. So you agree, you disagree with anything we said, please leave it in the comment section. And I'm just going to take one quick moment because the time has ran out. But Anthony, you have on a very interesting shirt there. Would you show everybody that shirt and tell us a little bit about it?
My company is called Lens Custom Creations. We make shirts like this, shirts and mugs. And the shirt says, "Busy making my ancestors proud."
Okay, show them the mug too.
All right, the mug here says, "Black history is also American history."
Okay, so y'all make those items.
Yes, we make those items at Lens Custom Creations. If you want to get in contact with me, just look at my Facebook at Anthony Harrell and DM me there, and we can talk about it.
Okay, I want to thank you, Mr. Harrell, for hosting the program tonight. And we pray this won't be your last visit to the Ron Chappell Show. And we also wish you well with the campaign. And so, yes, sir.
Oh, closing out?
Yes.
I'd like to say we're closing out. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time here in this world. So with that being said, thank you here from Mr. Ryan Chappell Show. This is Anthony Harrell signing off, and God bless you, and God bless America.
All right. Drive safe, y'all, and good night.
Yo, check this out. Yo, we're going to go back to the old school right now.
Hi, this is Crystal Davis, and you are listening to the Ron Chappell Show at The Voice, 17104.com, every Monday night beginning at 8 p.m.
Okay. All right. Good job, man. Good job, brother.
This is live.
Oh yeah, that's a